I want to thank you all for coming and welcoming you to the Student Success Lightning Talks for winter 2019. I also just want to start with a caveat that I am really not feeling well. I mostly came in for this. Most of you know me and know that I'm usually a little more energetic and clear, but a 5-minute lightning talk is just what I need to get through. So first of all, just some introductory remarks. This is not the first time we've done student lightning talks. Last year, the Strategic Plan Coordinating Committee that has co-champions Kathleen Farrell and Erica Klein started this conversation through the lightning talk form, at least, through student lightning talks last year. So I see this as sort of the continuation of that conversation. It's not the beginning and it's definitely not the end. But the hope here was to elevate our story. So I have been in this role since, I think, July. And before this role, I really made it my business to know all of your business. And I still find in these few months that I'm constantly learning about all of the work that we're doing around student success on campus. And so we need to take regular times to tell our story to each other, to look for places of synergy, to talk a bit about some of our challenges and how others of us have gotten through some of those challenges. And so this to me is one way we can do that, but I see this as the beginning of a series that would take on different forms. A couple of thank yous before we get started. Always need to thank Heather Porter for her help with logistics. Yes. I particularly want to thank the College Success Foundation. So you will be hearing from Arlisha, who's going to be giving a lightning talk about our recent partnership, although we've had a partnership with CSF for many years. But I also want to introduce Victor, who's here from CSF. And most importantly, thank them for sponsoring the coffee and the snacks that you should be sure to. Yay! And then the last people I need to thank as I sort of launch into this are our speakers who are brave enough to spend 5 minutes to tell you about their work. And so the talks today are action-oriented, right? They're about what it is that we're doing. What I want to spend these 5 minutes on is framing out what do we know about student success. I would argue that we have not defined student success on this campus in an adequate way yet. But in the meantime, there are a number of nationally used quantitative measures that we still need to hold ourselves accountable to. Things like the 6-year graduation rate of first-time in college students, graduation of any student from UW-Tacoma, graduation of any UW-Tacoma student from any 4-year institution, and then a range of post-graduation metrics. Career success can be defined in a lot of ways. And so I'm not indicating at all that this is the definition of student success, but these are some classic, nationally focused, quantitative measures that we need to hold ourselves accountable to. And we have the data for all of those things. And so this was just to give you a sense of, well, do we have overall graduation from any 4-year school? Yes, we do. We have access to the National Data Clearinghouse that is free. So these are all things that we can use to help us better understand and hold ourselves accountable to the retention, graduation, and post-graduation success of our students. So just to give you a real flavor, these are going to go by pretty quickly. And I know that Colleen's going to talk a bit more about some of the data and moving data to action, which is more what we're focused on today. But our first time in college 6-year graduation rate is 58%. Our transfer 4-year graduation rate is 83%. And it's a little bit hard to see, but these bottom lines are your 4-year and 6-year graduation numbers. And you can see that over time, they've bounced around, but we haven't had a significant uptick. Although in recent times, there might be one that we'll see how that continues. How does that compare to other places? If you look in iPads and just look at Western publics, it's actually not that different from national publics. 55% is their first time in college 6-year graduation rate. Ours is significantly lower than Seattle's and Bothel's. Bothel's at 62 and Seattle's at 84. Our transfer 4-year numbers, though, are actually right in there. And if you look through time, they kind of cross each other quite a bit. It's in our strategic plan that we will always hold ourselves accountable to disaggregate our data, to look at the equity among our various student populations in terms of these metrics. This is going to stay here for 2 slides, so don't panic. This purple bar here is our overall full-time graduation rate, whether you came in as a freshman or a transfer. That number is lower for part-time students. And if you look across racial and ethnic groups as defined by IPEDS, our Caucasian graduation rate and our international graduation rate is notably higher than for other racial and ethnic groups. For females, it's a touch higher. For Pell-eligible students, it's a touch higher. And for first-gen students, it's a touch lower. So we have a lot of work to do around equity, and when we're talking about student success and we're talking about it in the context of graduation rate. And we'll be hearing from the CEI, but all of us are working on this particular issue. I also want to mention another population you might be less familiar with, and the Student Transition Programs team is going to be talking about them, so I don't want to steal their thunder. But all I want to tell you is that 1 in 5 students who are entering UW-Tacoma on a freshman application have enough credits to be a junior. You've heard me say this a number of times, but I had to say it again here. But another thing that I think is important to look at in terms of these students is how do they fare in terms of a graduation rate. So if you look at this white bar, that is the 4-year graduation rate of our freshmen that came in with enough credits to be juniors. And they have like a 90% 4-year graduation rate. So we're going to be digging into this running start population, both in the lightning talk today and in a workshop we're having on January 28th, and you are all cordially invited to attend that, so please do. Then the last thing, up ahead, look at that. The last thing I want to talk about is career outcomes. I've given a 1-hour spiel about this a number of times, so this is like the preview version. Just to let you know that we've recently purchased a large data set from a company called MZ that looks at career outcomes of our students from 1990 to today, and those data are actually linked into SDB and can be disaggregated in every way that we can disaggregate SDB. If you're interested in learning more about that, let me know. I've been rolling that out for a while. With that, my time is up, and again, I really wanted to make this more of an action-oriented day, but I at least wanted to start with that basic common understanding of some of those commonly looked at quantitative measures of retention and graduation. So I'm super excited for this. We've been talking about doing this for quite a long time. I'm also really glad that I think I'm done speaking for the day. And so what we're going to do is 5 minutes each. Are you going to be ready to go? Okay, we are. So we will start by introducing Katie Baird, and Katie will introduce her student.